Imagine a time long, long ago when cars were new and tall buildings were just starting to touch the sky. It was in this exciting time, in the year 1907, that a truly magnificent building opened its doors in New York City. This wasn't just any building. It was a grand hotel built to be the most beautiful and important place for people to stay. It was called the Plaza Hotel, and from the moment it first welcomed guests, it sparkled like a jewel. Picture its towering walls, made of the finest stone, reaching up toward the clouds. Its many windows, like watchful eyes, looked out over Central Park, a giant green playground in the middle of the bustling city. The hotel stood at a very special corner, where Fifth Avenue, a street famous for its fancy shops, met Central Park South. This spot made the plaza feel like the heart of the city, a place where everything exciting happened. Inside, the plaza was even more amazing. Everything was designed to be beautiful and luxurious. Think of shiny marble floors that gleamed like ice and tall ceilings painted with pretty pictures. There were big, comfy chairs and couches where guests could relax, and sparkling chandeliers that hung down like giant diamonds, lighting up every room. The air itself seemed to hum with excitement and importance. When the Plaza Hotel opened, it was a very big deal. People talked about it all over the city and even in other countries. It was a place where dreams seemed to come true, a setting for grand parties, elegant dinners, and quiet, fancy teas. From the very first day, everyone knew that the plaza wasn't just a hotel. It was a landmark, a special part of New York City that would stand for many, many years. It was built to be perfect, a place where only the best would do, and for a long time, it truly was. The Plaza Hotel wasn't just built to be beautiful. It was made to be a playground for the very best. From the moment its grand doors swung open, everyone knew this was the place where rich and famous people would come to stay and have the most amazing time. It was like a giant, fancy dollhouse, but for grown-ups who had lots of money and loved to be pampered. Imagine stepping into the lobby, where the air felt like silk and the sounds of quiet laughter and soft music filled your ears. Doormen, dressed in smart uniforms, would greet you with a friendly smile, ready to help with anything you needed. Inside, there were elegant restaurants with sparkling silverware and waiters who knew just what to bring you. There were cozy lounges where ladies and gentlemen could sip tea or fancy drinks, talking about important things or just enjoying each other's company. The rooms themselves were like something out of fairy tale. Each one was big and beautiful, with soft beds covered in the finest sheets. There were big windows that looked out over the city or the park, offering amazing views. Every detail, from the fancy lamps to the soft rugs, was chosen to make guests feel like royalty. This was a place where you could forget all your worries and just enjoy being waited on hand and foot. The plaza was designed so that important people could have fun in many ways. They could go to a fancy ball in the grand ballroom, twirling around under glittering lights. They could enjoy a quiet dinner with friends, or maybe even host a big party themselves. It was a place for celebrations, for making deals, and for simply enjoying the finer things in life. The people who built the plaza wanted it to be the most special spot in the world for those who could afford it, a place where luxury and joy went hand in hand. It truly became a haven for the wealthy and well-known, a place where every wish seemed to come true. Because the Plaza Hotel was built to be such a special and fancy place, it wasn't long before the most important people from all over the world started to visit. Imagine walking through its doors and seeing famous faces everywhere. Movie stars with dazzling smiles, singers with voices like angels, and even real kings and queens from faraway lands would choose the plaza as their home away from home. Picture this. A famous actress, known for her beautiful gowns, might be having breakfast in the Palm Court, a lovely glass-domed room filled with plants. Or perhaps a world-renowned singer, whose songs everyone knew, would be checking in, surrounded by a buzz of excitement. Even powerful leaders and princes would sweep through the lobby, their presence making the air feel even more important. The plaza was truly a magnet for the famous and the powerful. These special guests didn't just sleep there. They lived out moments that became part of the hotel's legendary story. Some would throw lavish parties in the grand ballroom, where music would play late into the night and laughter would echo through the halls. Others might have quiet, secret meetings in elegant suites, discussing important matters of state or planning their next big show. Children of famous families would even celebrate their birthdays there, making wishes in rooms filled with balloons and cake. The plaza became a place where history was made, not just in big ways, but in small, personal moments too. Every time a famous person stayed, they added another sparkle to the hotel's already bright reputation. Their stories became part of the plaza's own story, making it more than just a building. It was a living, breathing part of New York City's grand past. The hotel wasn't just a place to stay. It was a place to be seen, to celebrate, and to truly feel like you were at the center of the world. Because of all these famous guests, the plaza grew even more important and special over the years. Beyond the famous faces and grand parties, what truly made the Plaza Hotel so beloved were the special things it offered every day. It was known far and wide for three wonderful qualities: its beautiful rooms, its absolutely delicious food, and the kind, friendly people who worked there. These things made every guest, whether famous or not, feel truly special. Imagine waking up in one of the plaza's rooms. Sunlight would stream through big windows, lighting up soft carpets and elegant furniture. The beds were so comfortable, like sleeping on a cloud, and the bathrooms gleamed with shiny tiles and fresh towels. Each room felt like a cozy, fancy home, designed to make you feel relaxed and happy. It wasn't just a place to sleep. It was a beautiful space to enjoy. Then there was the food. Oh, the food at the plaza was a treat for your taste buds. From the fancy meals served in its grand restaurants to a simple cup of tea and a tiny sandwich in the palm court, everything was made with care and tasted wonderful. Chefs work hard to create dishes that were both pretty to look at and delightful to eat. You could have a fancy breakfast, a lovely lunch, or a spectacular dinner, and each meal was an experience in itself. People would travel just to eat at the plaza, knowing they would enjoy every single bite. But perhaps the most important part of the plaza's magic was its people. The doormen, the bellhops, the waiters, the housekeepers. Everyone who worked there was known for being kind, helpful, and always having a smile. They remembered your name, knew what you liked, and made sure you felt welcome and cared for. They weren't just doing a job. They were creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. It was their friendly faces and helpful hands that truly made the plaza feel like a home away from home, making guests want to return again and again. These three special qualities together created the unforgettable experience that made the Plaza Hotel so cherished. With all its beauty, its famous guests, and its wonderful service, the Plaza Hotel grew to be much more than just a place to stay. It became a shining symbol of New York City itself, showing everyone just how grand, exciting, and full of life the city could be. When people thought of New York, they often thought of the plaza, standing tall and proud. Imagine seeing postcards or pictures of New York. The Statue of Liberty, Times Square, and then, right there, the elegant Plaza Hotel. It was a picture of success, of dreams coming true, and of a city that was always moving forward. Its golden rooftops and beautiful architecture told a story of elegance and importance that made people feel excited just by looking at it. The plaza stood like a queen watching over Central Park, a reminder of the city's rich history and its bright future. It represented the fancy side of New York, where big dreams were made and celebrated. When movies wanted to show how fancy New York was, they often filmed scenes at the plaza. When important visitors came to the city, they often chose to stay there, adding to its fame. It wasn't just a building, it was an idea. The idea that New York was a place of endless possibilities, where beauty and excitement were around every corner. It showed how a city could be both old and new, keeping its history while still being a part of the modern world. For many, the plaza was the first thing that came to mind when they thought of New York, because it truly captured the city's spirit. So, for many years, the Plaza Hotel wasn't just a hotel. It was the face of New York, welcoming people from all over the world and showing them the magic of a city that never slept. It represented all the wonderful things that made New York City so special, and everyone knew it. It truly was a grand symbol of a grand city. As the years rolled by, like pages turning in a very long storybook, the Plaza Hotel saw many changes. It stayed beautiful and important, but like an old house that gets new families, the hotel had different owners. And with each new owner, things would shift, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in bigger ones. Imagine the plaza as a beloved toy that many children get to play with over time. Each child might love it, but they might also want to change its clothes or build new things around it. That's a bit like what happened to the plaza. Some owners wanted to keep everything exactly the same, protecting its old-world charm. They loved the history and the way things had always been, making sure the shiny floors stayed shiny and the grand rooms kept their classic look. But other owners had different ideas. Maybe they thought the hotel needed a fresh coat of paint, or perhaps new furniture to make it look more modern. They might have changed the menu in the restaurants, adding new dishes or taking away old favorites. Sometimes they would even change the way the staff worked, hoping to make things run even better, or perhaps just differently. These changes were often made with good intentions. Owners wanted the plaza to stay popular and to continue being a special place for guests. But even small changes can add up. A new color on the walls here, a different kind of carpet there, a slightly different way of greeting guests. Slowly, piece by piece, the hotel began to feel a little bit different than it did when it first opened its doors in 1907. Each new owner left their mark, like a signature on a painting. The plaza was still the plaza, but it was also a little bit of each person who had been in charge. These shifts meant that while the hotel remained a grand building, its heart and soul, the very feeling of the place, began a slow and gentle transformation. It was a story of many hands guiding one very special landmark through the passage of time. Even though the Plaza Hotel changed owners many times, not everyone wanted to change everything. In fact, some of the people who bought the hotel truly loved its history and magic. They worked very hard to keep the plaza just as it was, full of its old charm and all the special things that made it famous. These owners understood that the plaza wasn't just a building, it was a treasure. They knew that guests came there because of its elegant past, its beautiful old rooms, and the feeling of stepping back in time to a grander era. So, instead of tearing things down or changing everything to look new and modern, they focused on taking care of what was already there. Imagine them carefully polishing the shiny marble floors, making sure they gleamed just as they did in 1907. They would repair old paintings and fix antique furniture with great care, rather than replacing them with new things. The beautiful chandeliers would be cleaned until they sparkled, and the fancy wallpapers would be kept in perfect condition. Their goal was to make sure that if someone visited the plaza many years later, it would still feel like the same amazing place they remembered. These owners also made sure that the friendly service and delicious food, which were so important to the plaza's reputation, stayed just as wonderful. They wanted the staff to continue being kind and helpful, remembering guests' names and making them feel at home. They kept the classic dishes on the menu, knowing that people loved them and expected them. They understood that the true magic of the plaza came from its history and its unique character. They were like guardians of a precious story, making sure that every page remained clear and beautiful for everyone to enjoy. Thanks to these owners, for many years, the Plaza Hotel continued to feel like a timeless wonderland, a place where the past was cherished and its special charm was kept alive for all who entered its doors. For a long time, the Plaza Hotel managed to keep its special sparkle, thanks to owners who loved its old ways. But then came a time when new owners stepped in, and his ideas were very different. This new owner was a man named Donald Trump, and his main goal was to make a lot of money from the famous hotel. When Donald Trump bought the plaza, it was a huge event. He was a very well-known businessman in New York City, and he liked to do things in a big, bold way. People wondered what he would do with such a classic and beloved place. Would he cherish its history like the owners before him? Or would he bring his own kind of change to the grand old hotel? It quickly became clear that his plans were focused on profit. He saw the plaza as a valuable asset, a way to earn much more money. This meant that some of the old traditions, the quiet elegance, and the focus on timeless charm started to take a back seat. Instead, there's a new energy, one that seemed to shout about wealth and modern success. Imagine the grand old plaza, which had always whispered stories of its past, suddenly feeling like it needed to loudly announce its future. The delicate balance between keeping things old and making them new began to shift. While other owners might have thought about how to preserve the feeling of the plaza, this new owner was thinking about how to make it more popular and, most importantly, more profitable. This shift in focus was a big change for the plaza. It wasn't just about polishing the floors or fixing a chair anymore. It was about seeing the hotel as a business opportunity, where every decision was weighed against how much money it could bring in. This new way of thinking would soon start to change the very heart of the plaza, moving it away from its quiet traditions and towards a louder, more commercial path. The Grand Old Hotel was about to enter a very different chapter in its long story. With Donald Trump now owning the Plaza Hotel, the changes weren't just small tweaks. They were big, noticeable differences. He started to change many things, from how the hotel looked on the outside and inside, to the very feeling of what it was like to stay there. The plaza, which had always felt like a grand old lady, began to get a very modern makeover. Imagine the famous lobby, which once felt warm and timeless, now looking brighter, shinier, and perhaps a bit louder. Walls that were once a soft, classic color might have become bolder, and new decorations appeared that were more about showing off than about quiet elegance. The goal was to make things feel more new and exciting, perhaps in a way that some felt didn't quite fit the plaza's old soul. The rooms, too, saw transformations. While they were still luxurious, the style might have shifted from classic comfort to something more flashy. Perhaps gold accents became more common, or very modern furniture replaced some of the older, cherished pieces. The idea was to attract a new kind of guest, one who might prefer a very clear statement of wealth rather than the subtle, historical charm the plaza was famous for. Even the experience of staying there started to feel different. The focus on personalized, quiet service might have been overshadowed by a faster, more business-like approach. The delicious food was still there, but perhaps the atmosphere in the dining rooms felt less like a gentle old tradition and more like a bustling, important place to see and be seen. The hotel, which once welcomed you with a soft hug of history, now greeted you with a firm handshake of modern ambition. These changes were meant to make the plaza even more popular and, of course, to make more money. But for many who loved the old plaza, these changes felt like something was being lost. The quiet magic, the feeling of stepping into a different time, began to fade a little, replaced by a new kind of energy that some found exciting and others found a bit sad. The plaza was definitely changing, and everyone could feel it. As the changes at the Plaza Hotel continued under its new owner, a quiet sadness began to settle among many people who loved the old hotel. It wasn't just about new paint or different furniture anymore. People started to feel like the plaza was losing its special old feeling, the very magic that made it unique. It began to seem less like the one-of-a-kind plaza and more like just another hotel. Imagine a favorite old storybook that suddenly has new, very bright pictures drawn all over the original ones. While the new pictures might be colorful, they cover up the gentle, familiar drawings you loved. That's how some felt about the plaza. The subtle charm, the quiet elegance, the feeling of stepping into a grand past. These things were slowly being covered up by newer, louder ideas. Guests who had visited for many years might come back and notice that the friendly doorman they remembered was gone, or that the special tea they loved in the palm court tasted a little different. The quiet corners where people used to read or have hushed conversations might now be filled with more noise or brighter lights. The special community feeling, where everyone felt like a part of the Plaza family, started to fade away. The hotel, which once stood out as a unique jewel, began to blend in more with other fancy hotels in the city. It still looked grand, but the heart of it felt different. It was like a beautiful song that had been changed to be faster and louder, losing some of its soft, original melody. People would say, "It's not the same plaza anymore." This feeling of loss was important because the plaza's magic wasn't just in its building, but in its soul. When that special soul seemed to dim, the hotel risked becoming just a place to sleep rather than a place to dream. The worry grew that the plaza was losing its true self, becoming just another grand building focused on making money, instead of being the timeless, beloved landmark it once was. Even as the Plaza Hotel began to change on the inside, there was one very important thing that protected its outer beauty: special laws. These laws meant that the outside of the building, with its grand stone walls, fancy windows, and iconic rooftops, could not be changed very much. It was landmarked, which means it was recognized as a historic and important building that needed to be preserved for everyone to see. Imagine a beautiful old painting that is so special. People agree it should always look the same. They put a strong glass over it to protect it from harm. That's what being landmarked did for the plazas outside. No one could suddenly paint a wild color or add a giant new sign that didn't fit. The famous look of the plaza, the one that made it a symbol of New York, was safe. But here's the tricky part. These laws mostly protected what you could see from the street. They saved the grand architecture and the historic look of the building's shell. However, the inside was a different story. While some parts of the inside, like the Grand Ballroom or the Palm Court, also had some protection, many other areas could be changed more easily. So, even though the plaza still looked like the same magnificent building from the outside, full of its proud history, the feeling once you stepped inside started to be different. It was like a beautiful gift box that looked perfect on the outside, but when you opened it, the present inside wasn't quite what you expected. The new changes, aimed at making money, meant that the warm, old-fashioned charm of the interior sometimes got lost. This created a strange feeling for people. They would walk by the plaza, see its timeless beauty, and feel happy that such a historic place was still standing. But then they would go inside and sense that something had shifted. The outside was a monument to the past, but the inside was often trying to be too much of the present, and sometimes that meant losing some of the magic that had made the plaza so truly special. The laws saved the building's skin, but the soul of the hotel, for many, was slowly changing. The story of the Plaza Hotel, with its beautiful outside protected, but its inside changing, really shows us something important. It teaches us how very hard it is to keep old buildings truly special when the people who own them only think about making money. There's a big difference between loving a building for its history and seeing it only as a way to get rich. Imagine you have a cherished old toy, like a teddy bear that has been in your family for many years. It's special because of all the stories it holds and the memories it brings. If someone buys that teddy bear and only thinks about how much money they can get for it, they might try to change it. They might put new, shiny eyes on it or give it a loud, modern outfit, thinking that will make more people want to buy it. But in doing so, they might take away the very things that made it special in the first place. Its soft, worn fur, its familiar button eyes, the quiet comfort it brought. That's a bit like what happened to the plaza. When owners focused only on profit, they sometimes forgot about the soul of the hotel. The grand, quiet elegance, the personal touches, the feeling of stepping into a timeless world. These things don't always bring in the most money right away. Making things cheaper, faster, or flashier might seem like a good business idea, but it can slowly chip away at what makes a place unique and loved. The problem is that history and charm are not always easy to count in dollars and cents. How do you put a price on the feeling of wonder a guest has when they see a perfectly preserved old ballroom, or the comfort they feel when a longtime staff member remembers their favorite drink? These intangible things are what make a place truly special, but they are often the first to go when money becomes the only goal. So, the Plaza story is a lesson. It tells us that while buildings can be protected by laws, their true spirit and magic need more than just walls to survive. They need owners who care about their history and character as much as they care about their bank accounts. It highlights the big challenge of keeping the past alive in a world that often only looks to the future and to profit. The journey of the Plaza Hotel teaches us a very deep and important lesson. It shows us that a building is so much more than just the bricks and walls that hold it up. It's also about all the feelings, the memories, and the special moments that have happened inside it over many, many years. These are the invisible parts that make a place truly come alive. Think about your own home. It's not just wood and plaster, is it? It's where you've laughed with your family, celebrated birthdays, and felt safe and cozy. Those feelings and memories make your house a home, a very special place in your heart. The Plaza Hotel was like that for New York City and for countless guests. Inside its grand walls, movie stars fell in love, important deals were made, children celebrated magical parties, and families shared happy vacations. Every elegant dinner, every quiet conversation, every twirl on the ballroom floor added a tiny bit of magic to the hotel's soul. These moments created a rich tapestry of history and emotion that no amount of new paint or modern furniture could ever truly replace. Even though laws could protect the plaza's beautiful outside, they couldn't protect these feelings and memories. They couldn't save the quiet hum of history in the hallways or the feeling of stepping into a place that felt both grand and familiar. When an owner changed the way the hotel felt, they weren't just changing decorations. They were, in a way, changing the very spirit of the place. So, the Plaza's story is a reminder that when we look at old buildings, we should see more than just their physical form. We should try to imagine the lives lived there, the stories whispered, and the joy shared. Because it's these invisible threads of human experience that truly make a place special, giving it a heart and a soul that are just as important as its bricks and walls. This understanding helps us appreciate why some places are so much more than just buildings. They are living parts of our shared history and feelings. The long and winding journey of the Plaza Hotel, from its grand beginning to the changes it faced, gives us a really important lesson. It helps us understand why it's so important to save history and culture. These aren't just old things. They're the stories, the feelings, and the unique ways of life that make our world rich and interesting. Think about what would happen if we only cared about new things and threw away everything old. We would lose the beautiful old buildings that tell us about the past. We would forget the stories of people who lived long ago. Our world would become a bit plain, without all the special colors and textures that history brings. The Plaza Hotel reminds us that history isn't just in books or museums. It lives in places like grand hotels, old theaters, and even quiet parks. When we protect these places, we're not just saving bricks and mortar, we're saving a piece of time, a connection to who we were and how we got to be where we are today. We save the chance for new generations to feel the same wonder and learn the same lessons. Culture, too, is like a special recipe that gets passed down. It's the way people celebrate, the art they make, the stories they tell. The Plaza was part of New York's culture, a place where fancy traditions and elegant ways of life were kept alive. When those things start to fade because of new ideas that only focus on money, a part of our shared culture gets lost. So, the next time you see an old building or hear a story from the past, remember the Plaza. Its story shows us that we need to be careful guardians of our history and culture. We need to appreciate the special magic that old places hold, not just for what they are today, but for all the stories they tell and all the feelings they keep safe for us. Saving these things means saving a bit of our own hearts and our shared human journey. It truly is a lesson worth remembering.